I'm Mary Beth Jacobs, and this is video 1 of 3 regarding the method of spit and splice technique. This is a companion video for the Cast On Winter 2017 Learn Something New article. The first method of spit and splice that we're going to show is, you'll see the first one I did down here. It's a little imprecise. It's one that is often shown in a lot of resources. So we'll go ahead and start. The first thing you're going to do is take your old yarn, which I'll call yarn A. We're going to untwist and take apart half of the ply. This is a 4-ply worsted weight yarn, so I am going to unravel 2 of the 4 plies, half, and I'm going to trim back about 1 inch. I prefer a nice blunt cut because I use that cut to line things up. Now I'm going to take my new yarn source, which I'll call yarn B, and I'm also going to undo 2 of the 4 ply. I want this to be roughly 1 inch as well, but since I didn't quite measure, I will use my first piece to kind of line it up where I want to cut. That's about the same. Okay. So you can see now I have both yarn sources, A, the old, and B, with half the ply cut. Now, if you're not familiar with spit and splice, it is a way of fusing yarns together, new yarn sources, via moisture, friction, and heat. And the moisture comes from spit. So the way we do this is not too complicated. Basically, you take the yarn and put it in your mouth. Okay, so I just did that. It doesn't take long, doesn't have to be super wet. We don't have to be overly gross. Make sure your mouth is clean though, because you won't be happy if you've been drinking coffee or what have you. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to just ever so carefully kind of twist the yarns upon themselves. I actually find this a little tedious, but a lot of people love this method, so I'm just going to twist them together so they kind of spiral upon each other. And we're not quite lining up here. There we go. This is part of why I like the cuts to be blunt, so that I can visually kind of line up where I need to get to. Okay. So there we are. We're pretty much lined up. Now I'm going to take it and place it in the palm of my hand, and ever so carefully I'm going to start to just rub those two together. You can see it starting to fuse together. Doesn't take too much. One thing I do usually do is I'll go back and kind of get those ends really well, just to make sure they're tacked down so that they don't come up later. Okay, so here we go. There's what the fused yarn is going to look like. Now, let's see what that looks like when we knit it up. Just going to work across the row here. You can see what they look like on the needle. We have some two-tone bits of yarn there. If I continue working up, you're going to see that it looks a lot like this join here, where you'll have some of it that is basically two-tone as that twist works through, and then from the back it has the same mottled kind of look to it. This particular method is most useful when using yarn sources that are the same for this reason. If you had a steek and you could hide this in the steek and do it that way. One of the good things about this is that the yarn is fairly uniform in weight. So you can see here the stitches. If we ignore the color, the weight of the yarn is pretty uniform. Okay. So again, this is video 1 of 3. We're going to have 2 more, and the next 2 are going to try to be more precise with that color change.